I had to figure out a way, here I am promoting, I'm no longer in prostitution. Well, I still got to pay the rent,
Yeah.
Now, the only thing I could think of to do was this woman in the program suggested that I sign up with a temp agency. And I was like, cool. I mean, this woman got me through. So she said to me, it's a little out of your wheelhouse, but, I've got this job over at NASA, because there's a couple of places in Los Angeles, especially in the Valley, over like Woodland Hills, Canoga Park. There's a couple of places connected to NASA. So she was like, okay, with your paralegal skills and your, fast typing speed, I think I can get you in there. She said, but I warn you, there's a really high level security clearance you got to go through, which scared me to death. I'm like, I'm never going to pass this security check, right?
Yeah.
Now when I got the call that I passed security clearance, I was pretty shocked, but I figured it was a low level temp, like secretary job, right?
Yeah.
And so, I'd go into this, it was jet propulsion laboratory, something to do with, because I remember the sign when I drive up, but it was definitely NASA, but it was something to do with, they kept telling me that I was working on the space shuttle.
Okay, so...
And they told me, like, first day, they said, you're very lucky, you're going to be working directly with our top scientists, because my typing skills were so high.
Okay.
And they figured my paralegal made me care more, which is another reason why they didn't want a slacker in the job, in other words. There was only one engineer who would come near me. And, so he started, and I made a joke to him. I said, I have no idea what I'm typing. And he said, that's okay. You did a good job, because I, directly typed what he'd given me. So he was happy, And so him and I kind of made friends, and he kept looking at me like he knew me from somewhere. And I'm going, oh, God, I hope he has not seen me on television.
Probably.
I mean, this is all I kept hoping, right? He goes, but didn't I see you? And he remembered me being a reader. He's going, didn't I see you doing card readings, And I go, yeah. He goes, do you still do that? And I said, it doesn't pay the rent. And it got him talking to me. And of course, I'm curious, because I was like, why is a NASA scientist curious about tarot cards? And I was shocked, because I said, well, you guys are really spiritual. He goes, actually, he said, when you get really into high level quantum, theory, he said, it gets pretty spiritual. And he starts telling me how even Einstein believed in God and fate. And, we had some really great discussions. Let's put it that way. He invited me to some of the lectures that he went to, that the other scientists went to, which also kind of surprised me to find out how many of the scientists that were working there were into the metaphysical. But when you get into quantum theory and quantum physics and all that, especially by locality, that I can be in two places at once, according to this science, I mean, if you look up those guys personally, in their interviews, that they are very much into the occult and the UFO thing. Yeah, you have to, So the more that you get into it, the more it proves these kind of things are real. It does cross-correlate with not only what they talk about with how the UFOs supposedly travel, the wormholes and all that kind of thing, but it also, explains how, like, psychics can predict the future and see things. A lot of these people intersect. I mean, we would go out UFO watching.
Oh my God. Okay,
yeah,
so you would meet up with these NASA guys and probably other people too, I'm assuming, and you would go out to these certain places and you would look for UFOs. What's the craziest thing you ever seen in that situation?
Topanga Canyon. The Topanga Canyon was really scary, and that's when I stopped doing it. Topanga Canyon really scared me. You got to understand Topanga Canyon, I guess. If you're at Topanga Canyon and Ventura Boulevard, that's like the mouth of Topanga Canyon, as I call it. And you go through it, and you'll go up these mountains, okay? And then at a certain point, which is about the midway point, you're up pretty high, and you can look down on LA, but you can also look towards the beach.
So it's like a peak.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we go out there, and they did this thing. I mean, you got to have the setup of, we're going out to Topanga Canyon. We're waiting till it's like midnight. It's really dark. Things are quiet. And
were you guys like partying, or was it like a science trip?
No.
Was it like blankets and chilling, or?
No drugs. No drugs.
No
No drugs.
drinking, no
No
nothing.
booze.
You were just
No.
you're
No.
strictly.
These are NASA scientists, man. They were not drinking. They didn't, and I never saw any. I never saw any drugs or booze around these guys. They were stone cold sober every time I was
So they were
around them.
serious. We're going out at 12, and we're going to try to make something happen here.
Yeah, and that's one reason why they brought me along. They said, you're the psychic, you're the link. We want you to open up your mind and try to connect to them telepathically. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm just like, okay, so I'm trying to like, hello, we're here, and they shined flashlights towards the beach. They had some kind of high-powered, I don't know what you call it, other than a flashlight, but it was big,
How big are we
like
talking?
a spotlight.
Oh, a spotlight.
It was about the size of a bowling ball. They had a light that was like the size of a bowling ball.
Like a light on a cop car, like that kind of spotlight.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was a big light, like it was about the size of a bowling ball. And supposedly this was like a signal. They shined the lights, and then a light appeared.
Well, what did this light look like? Was it white? Was it, color, size?
Big white light.
How was it? Did it hurt your eyes to look at, or was it one of those, like, what do you mean?
No. I mean, people say, oh, it was Venus. No, it was not Venus, I mean, it looked like, from where I was at, it looked like it was up over the beach, that we were seeing something over Pacific Coast Highway. That's what it looked like to me, is that we were seeing to the beach.
And it just looked like a light, like, would you say like a light on like a drone? You know what I mean? Like a light that you could definitely see, but it's not super bright, and it would be smaller? Like, how big do you think this thing was?
Well, that's another weird part. It didn't look like a man-made light. I've seen man-made lights, and I've seen the starlights, like Star Venus and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a planetary light, and it wasn't a man-made light. I mean, it was just an orb, I guess you call it. An orb might be a better word.
Gotcha. How big do you think it was?
It's more like an orb.
You think like a basketball?
Well, for it to be as big as I was seeing it, it had to be pretty huge.
Like a Volkswagen, like a car? You think?
Yeah. I think from where we were at to the size ratio that I was looking at, it'd have to be the size of a car. Mm. Yeah.
And it's coming, does it come from over the horizon? Does it just appear? Is it coming out of the water? What are we talking?
My recollection is it just, boom, was there. I mean, just like, hello, bing, And then, they start doing this communication with the flashlight at it, and it starts responding back. And there's obviously some kind of response. I mean, it's not just the light that's in the sky. It's responding to what we're communicating with it with our flashlight. It's trying to open some kind of communication going. They would do things like, okay, they'd respond back with like a blink, like a series of blinks. And then the light would respond back. It would mirror back. That's straight out of Close Encounters, okay? Then they would take the light and they would flash it over to the right, and then the light would move to the right. So you could see that whatever this thing was that was like up there in the sky, right? Too high to be a helicopter, let's put it that way. It's my understanding that a lot of other people have done this, that they've gone out there at random times and had this happen. So, of course, I talked to my mom about it, and my mom was like, you should stop going. And I'm like, why? And she's like, Mom's theory was not all aliens are friendly, And she's like, you don't know what's going to happen to you. She said, you don't want to say, hey, come take me, because you don't know what they're going to do to you. I mean, and that's where Mom was coming from. So it did scare me. I mean, this was not just some random light. This thing was communicating. And what did that mean? Because my head will go there. My head is, well, what does this mean? What is this? What does it want? Why is it? I mean, my head just starts going there, and I can't deal with this. It's kind of scary. And how do I know the light would not come at us or shoot at us? I don't know what it means, So I just, the couple times they went on outings after that, I was like, no, I'm good. I started, it just got, I couldn't handle it. And next thing I know, your services are no longer needed. And I'm like, oh, shit,
Huh.
And then, of course, I never heard from the guys again. But I guess because they figured, I've been booted out,
Yeah, you're out of the club. All right. Well, so is there anything else? I gotta ask one more time.
Not as far as the NASA job. It really wasn't that much to it. I mean, I started making phone calls because there's a whole UFO community in LA. And my mom knew all these UFO people, like even Harley. I don't know if you've heard of Harley Bird and the second Earth in Alaska. I don't know if you've heard about all that story, but my mom's
Second
really
Earth
close
in Alaska.
yeah, there's a story about Admiral Byrd, who was flying up in Alaska and supposedly found this sort of second world.
No, you're talking about Antarctica. It was in Antarctica.
Yeah, Antarctica.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Harley Bird was his son and was really good friends with my mother. He would come over every Christmas. Remember, as a teenager, I talked about that whole New Age phase that I went through. That's how we met Harley Bird, and he hit it off with my mom, and his girlfriend and my mom were like best friends.
This is so crazy.
What Christmas was like at my house. It's because we'd have Harley Bird was only one. We had Yuri Geller over. We had Harley Bird over. I mean, Christmas would be full of all these UFO psychic people.
Oh, man.
Okay, it was very interesting to me. You know.
Yeah, it's got to be.
But actually,
crazy.
And of course, I'm asking him about his experiences. Of course, Harley Bird is telling me that his dad had been abducted. He's telling me he's been abducted. And I remember even that about Harley Bird would be drunk as a skunk at Christmas. And of course, I made some crack about, He looked me Harley Bird looked me dead in the eye, and he goes, "Why do you think I drink so much?" I don't know. He goes, "You try coping with this stuff." Because I remember he was really close to my mom.
I cannot believe you know fucking Admiral Byrd's fucking son.
I'm trying to remember if he said he was a son, grandson, nephew. I don't know. I honestly don't remember like exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he said he was the son. I mean, I don't know exactly, but I do know that that Harley's like related to Admiral Byrd, right? And he like devoted himself. I remember his big thing was he was like devoted. I mean, like his life's calling was to try to spread the word about what his dad discovered. Because Harley made a lot of appearances at the like UFO conventions, UFO shows. He did. I mean, he put himself out there trying to carry the message that what his dad said was real, and that was another thing. And he pointed out a lot about his dad's respectability. Like he never would have been there unless the government trusted him to send him there. He said it wasn't like just some guy got in a plane and landed in Antarctica. No, our government, he said, sent him up there as a very respected researcher. When you look at his history, I mean, it's like sterling reputation. This guy's not some cuckoo,
Do you remember anything of that?
Yeah, I helped him set up the lectures. I helped him set up the screen where you do the slides and the videos.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was all he gave great lectures. It was all very factual and organized, and he put it out there. I mean, he said his dad basically flew into this other land, is all I remember. He flew into this like hole, and then there was like another level of land in there. And supposedly that's where he had contact with the aliens who lived there. But he said they were not human. Okay, this is what he said his dad said, is that some of these aliens are not like from another distant planet, that they're from there. They're from this underground planet that comes out of Antarctica. And supposedly they're coming out of this land where they're coming out the hole, right? But supposedly some of them are going through water and coming up through water. So in other words, Harley's dad believed or said that these aliens were not from another planet, that they were from our planet, just another level in our planet that was hidden from us, right? And claims that he had contact with an alien race. And there was supposedly a prophecy. I do remember there was a prophecy, but I don't remember what the prophecy was. I'll have to try to go back and try to remember.
You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? We're leaving you on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, really. There was a prophecy of some kind, and I'm going to have to try to remember what it was.
But, prophecy.
I mean, I remember the pictures. There are pictures, because I know he would give them, that his father took, where his dad took pictures from the plane. And you'd see the snow, and then there was the hole, is that you'd see, like, the snow, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there was a hole, and then, boom, you're in, like, another world. I mean, it wasn't snow anymore.
You saw
there's
pictures
like a whole
of this?
ecosystem. Yeah, there's pictures that he would show.
So those pictures, you've seen them. Can you describe I mean, what do you mean you saw a hole?
Well, okay, because he was taking pictures from the plane, right? And these
Yeah.
are the pictures that Harley would show at the lectures. And yeah, you'd see snow. I mean, of course, it's Antarctica. I remember that. But then I remember like a hole, like a cave. Like he flew in something that looked like a cave, right? And supposedly that's what he was flying into, is to see what was in this cave. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the only picture I remember was not like of the inside. Now, I do remember asking him about that. I said, are there any like real pictures on the inside? He claims that the camera stopped working, which is very possible. I mean, yeah, everything I know about paranormal, the camera probably did stop working
Bermuda
once he got
Triangle
inside.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about that all the time, is that things don't work right after you get to a certain point. But the one that was taken like near the mouth of it, the only thing I remember is that it looked like it was not snow, like it was a forest. You know what I mean? Like a forest with no snow. There's no snow, but you're right there at the snow. That's all I remember, the pictures. I have to see if I can find any of them. He said that his dad, when you looked into his dad's history, bloodline, you would understand that he believed that it wasn't just his dad, and he believed it wasn't just like an accident that his dad landed on this. When he told me about his alien abduction, he said that his dad had been abducted also, and that he knew it was genetic, and he felt it was because of what his dad knew. In other words, they were following the bloodline. He believes that like his grandfather had contact, in other words, and that their bloodline's been followed a while. And that's because he would explain to me that's why he didn't want kids, is he wanted it to stop. I mean, he said the abductions and the experiences were very hard on him to carry this information.
Did he seem legit? I mean, I gotta ask you. I mean, obviously he was drinking or whatever, but I believe him.
No, but like I said, when I would confront him about, come on, you're drinking, and he would look at me, I mean, straight on. And I got it. Like, why do you think I drink? When he said that and the way he looked at me, I like got it. No, it was not the chicken or the egg thing. It wasn't that I didn't believe him because of the drugs. No, he was doing the drugs to cope with what he knew.
Yeah. Here, I'll give you another one, since we're going off chart here, but I don't care. You ever about the Denver airport, the weirdness of the Denver airport?
Mm-hmm.
You got to look into it. It's crazy.
There's a lot of occult symbolism up there from what I remember.
But there was one time I was flying back home, and I got stuck there for 10 hours. I got a layaway or whatever. Like my plane got canceled. I forget. I was like, dude, I'm in the Denver airport for 10 hours. I'm checking this thing out because it's got like weird gargoyles. It's got all kinds of weirdness to it. There's like just weird, large, art, I guess you would call it. You know what I mean? That's just like, obviously they're saying something, but it's just fucking crazy looking. But on the floor, there's one that says Antarctica, and the weird cryptic word next to Antarctica is quiet. You know what I mean? It's just a weird word to have on the ground. That's like, and I'm telling you, it's like really cryptic, like, because it's in tile, but you can tell it says Antarctica. Like, it's like a blue tile, and then like there's like white and light blue, and then like a dark blue writing. So it's kind of mixed in. You wouldn't really notice it. It's very, very cryptic to me. And then there's the word quiet next to it in the same color, because every continent, it's North America, South America, it's all the continents, Europe, it's on the floor at the Denver airport. And I'm telling you right now that I'm crazy about Antarctica. I seen that, I'm about to blow my fucking lid. I'm like, fucking quiet? Why pick the word quiet? You know what I mean? It's just a weird word to have on the ground. There's only one word with it, and it's on the floor. You wouldn't even notice it. You know what I mean? Not only is in the Denver airport, which is already all fucked up, and there's a lot of other weird shit in there.
You got me wondering what he did with his stuff, because I know when he died, he said, and another thing I do remember now that Harley would tell me about is that Harley had arranged where this Japanese investor came out, and this Japanese investor was going to invest in Harley getting a plane and going back to do what his dad did. Okay? But again, this is all pre-digital cameras. You know what I mean? So it was a different time and it was expensive. So I do remember that this Japanese investor, there was a trip planned. And the plan of the trip was that, Harley was going to get a plane and try to like recreate his dad's steps. Okay? And I remember hearing that they did it. I mean, I'm young, I'm a smart ass. I made some crack about I was Alaska, or Antarctica or whatever, right? And he said it was good. He said they actually did something. He said they actually got in a plane, yada yada. And I'm like, um, then he claimed that he was having health problems related to some kind of radioactive exposure. Okay, because he started having cancer treatments then. And I remember him telling me that he believed the cancer was from the exposure that he got when he went up on this trip. And I mean, he was dead like 3 years after that from cancer. And I remember seeing him at the cancer treatments. He was adamant that he got exposed to something up there that made him sick.
Or they poisoned him.
I don't know. Well, that's another possibility too, because
but we gotta go by
he
him.
was another one. Well, you know what? He's another one that would talk to me about the CIA spooks bothering him. And I remember just like, are you just like drunk or are you serious? Because he would talk about how they would monitor him. He said he got threatened. And I'm like, come on, there weren't that many people at these things. He had maybe 50 people a shot at his things, right? And I'm like, really? You got threatened over that? Because in my mind, I don't see the threat. What's the big deal, right? But he said that he had to stop because he got threatened. And again, I didn't know what to believe back then because I was so young. I mean, because if this was an act, that was a very good act that he was putting on, right? And it wasn't about money. This is the thing you would say, oh, well, he was doing it to maybe sell a book. No, he wasn't. I mean, there was too much going on with him that it wasn't about money. It was too genuine. He had too many, like, for example, he would never talk about the abductions at his lectures. And it wasn't until I got to know him very well that he talked to me about that. I mean,
because it scares people off. No, there's probably so many people that don't talk about that shit. You know
what
I mean?
So I'm thinking, if he was an imposter to just trying to make a buck, then why would he? Because we were at UFO conventions. We were at UFO shows. If he wanted to make money, he would have emphasized the abduction thing, not kept it to himself like that. You know what I mean? So there's just something something's not jiving here at all. So I'm thinking, I tried to do some genealogical stuff because normally I can't find shit. But then I found this article that said that Admiral Byrd's father or grandfather, I think it was his grandfather, evidently was some wealthy oil dude. And this article claimed that he owned the book depository building and supposedly had taken the window from where Oswald shot out of and had it removed and turned it into like some exhibit. Like supposedly joking that they had something to do with the JFK assassination.
More than
But this is what I thought was strange is I can go online and I can find 1,000 websites about the Slender Man, or you know what I mean? Like there's so many websites about UFOs, and so why is it? You're right. I go online and I can't find shit. You know what I mean? Maybe they are wiping out records on Harley. I contacted a private investigator friend of mine. I know who's really good. I mean, he's amazing what he can dig up, right? And he's an ex-cop. And I asked him, I said, can you look up? I said, I just want to know if there's Harley Bird is actually related to Admiral Byrd, He goes, no. He says, don't go digging around online. He goes, all trigger flags asking about him. And and I'm like, okay, but I'm just asking you to do a genealogical search. Why on earth would that trigger classified information tags? That doesn't make sense to me. I don't see what's so. Well, this is what I'm trying to figure out is, was this guy an imposter? Was he lying about, I'm thinking, man, if he was lying, he kept the act up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I was around this guy for long periods of time. He sure kept that act up if that was a lie.
And a lot of things.
That's what I'm saying. Everything that he said to me just seemed too genuine. I do believe he was actually really related because of the way he would talk about carrying on the legacy. Somebody had to keep it all. I mean, if you realize before video cassettes and internet and stuff like that, yeah, somebody had to keep it alive. I wouldn't have heard of it if he wasn't talking about it.
No, I hear you.
But I thought it was weird to me that the only thing I could find on Harley Online was when he talked about this guy, Valiant Thor. I always thought it was honestly a bunch of hooey. This thing about Valiant Thor, because look, I know the government engaged in disinformation.
Definitely.
So whenever I'd hear this Valiant Thor shit, I figured, oh, it's more of that. Cause I'm supposed to believe that this alien walked around and met with the president and was photographed, and I'm like, I don't know about that. But
yeah, it's hard to
they
believe.
linked. It is hard to believe, but I know that Harley was friends with this guy Frank Stranges. Frank Stranges was actually really strange. Frank Stranges had a very, very weird house that was, what do you call it? You go in and he had all this UFO archive stuff in it, just packed, floor to ceiling. He was like a hoarder of UFO stuff, right?
Yeah.
Stranges like insisted this Valiant Thor was real and that he knew him, and but Harley was friends with Stranges. Of course, they hung out in the same circles. But I don't know if he believed the theory.
I think I know. I think I know what you're talking about with that. With like, there's that picture of that tall ass alien or whatever, some shit.
Yeah, they claim he's an alien. I don't know if I buy that or not.
So you don't know if it was just one of those, red meat to throw at, the UFO people or whatever people. You know what I mean? I don't know.
And the only thing I could find was this Art Bell reference, which, the Art Bell people are very loyal. And he's got people that collected all of his tapes. And so, I mean, that means that knowing Art Bell people, that means that there is probably a tape of Harley Bird somewhere. I mean, I used to listen to him every time I drive late at night. Now, in the show, Harley called and talking about, he claimed that Admiral Byrd was his uncle. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was his uncle. I don't know. Of course, I went looking for the tape.
Show? What is that?
Oh my God, you don't know about Art Bell? Oh my God, you are young. Okay. If you ever did any traveling at night, Art Bell was like the only radio program on. Okay. And you would call in if you had alien abduction experiences, or if you saw Bigfoot, or you were psychic intuition, anything to do with New Age, occult, UFO, whatever. That was his show, right?
That's such a good idea. How the hell is that not still
happening? It was fantastic. I loved it. I mean, when I would get on the road, he would come on about 10, 11 o'clock at night, and he'd go all night long till 5 a.m., and people would call him. See, I mean, some of the weird shit, like I remember the show, a lot of people talk about this show, where somebody called up saying that they worked at Area 51, and they started talking about that they saw the aliens at Area 51, yada, yada, but he, was talking about that they didn't want him to speak out, and he was having to sneak the call, and then the line goes dead. I mean, you remember things like that.
No,
so
I heard that.
Drama.
Is that show? I've heard that.
Yeah, Art Bell. That was the Art Bell show.